Welcome to HFY Beyond Terra, where humanity doesn't just survive, it becomes the galaxy's biggest surprise. Subscribe, and let's go beyond Terra.
The creature's shadow arrived before it did. It spilled over the broken basalt like ink, swallowing the floodlights and leaving the landing zone dim and small. Every soldier on my line tightened their grip. Even the veterans, those who'd fought raiders in vacuum and carried their friends home in sealed bags, shifted their feet the way prey does when the air changes. I didn't. Not because I was brave, because I was trying not to show fear in front of the human. He stood at the edge of our perimeter with his helmet clipped to his belt. No rifle, no energy shield, no escort closer than 20 paces. The wind snatched at his dark coat and made it snap like a banner. His face was bare, eyes narrowed against ash and grit, hands loose at his sides as if he'd come to meet a courier instead of a legend that ate armored vehicles. "Ambassador Hale," I hissed through my translator, "you need to step back. Now." He didn't look at me. His gaze stayed fixed on the ravine mouth where the last light died. "It's coming," I added, because perhaps he hadn't understood. Humans sometimes miss the obvious in ways that got them killed. "I know," he said. The ground vibrated with a low, wet bass note. Stones jittered. Somewhere behind me a Keth squadmate whispered a prayer to the 8 teeth of the hunt. Another checked the seal on her mask for the 3rd time. Then it emerged. The deadliest beast of Atrin. The locals called it gravitide because wherever it fed, bones rose afterward. White ridges thrusting up from the soil as if the planet tried to spit out what had been buried inside it. I had seen recordings. The way it moved like a wave of muscle, the way its rib plates opened and closed as it breathed, the way its jaw unhinged into a nightmare bloom of serrated cartilage. No recording captured the smell. It hit us like a physical blow. Iron, rot, and something sharp like storm ozone. The beast's head swung side to side, tasting the air with frilled tendrils that fluttered as delicately as underwater plants. It was huge, larger than the dropship, larger than the myth my childhood nightmares had given it, and it was coming straight for the human. My hand went to my sidearm without thinking. Around me, muzzles lifted. Targeting lasers jittered across the creature's plated chest. Someone behind me started to shout, a command or a warning, but the word dissolved when the beast opened its mouth and let out a sound that wasn't a roar so much as a declaration. The translator in my ear refused to touch it. Some sounds were too old for language. Ambassador Hale took one step forward. I caught his sleeve and yanked. "Are you insane?" He finally looked at me. His eyes were pale in the half-light, calm, infuriatingly so. "Captain Saris," he said, using my name as if it were a gentle thing, "please don't do that." "Don't do what? Keep you alive. Try to control this moment." I stared at him, breath sawing behind my mask. "Control? That thing can bite through your ship's hull, yes, through the bunker doors, yes, through the bones of this planet if it feels like it." He turned back to the beast. "That's why I'm here." The gravitide closed the distance in 3 heavy surges. It stopped so near the perimeter that the first rank of my soldiers had to tilt their heads back to look at it. Its nostrils flared, drawing in our scent. Its tendrils brushed the air in front of Hale's face. Hale didn't flinch. He raised his left hand slowly, palm outward. Not a challenge, not a strike. A shape I recognized from human customs, an empty-handed greeting. The beast's throat pulsed. Its plates shifted with a sound like grinding stone. And then, impossibly, it lowered its head. Not in hunger, not to bite. It dipped until its brow ridges nearly touched the ash, the way lesser predators bowed to alphas on my homeworld. The way subordinates acknowledged a leader's presence. The deadliest beast bowed to him. A breath left my body without permission. Beside me, Sergeant Vec muttered, "By the 8." Hale's fingers flexed once. Then he did something even more impossible. He stepped closer and placed his palm against the beast's frontal plate. The creature shuddered as if the contact lit nerves under its armor. Its tendrils curled inward. It made a sound that could have been pleasure or pain. Hale spoke softly, not through comms, not for our benefit. A low murmur carried by wind. The beast held still. My mind scrambled for a box to put this in. A trick, a drug, a sonic lure, some human machine hidden in his coat, but I had scanned him twice. We all had. No weapons. No implants beyond standard translator and a wristband medical tag. Nothing that could bend an apex predator's will. Unless will was what was being bent. Unless I watched his posture, his breathing, the way his shoulders loosened as if he'd finally arrived somewhere safe. That was the moment my guard slipped. Not because the beast bowed, but because the human looked like he belonged beside it. I eased my grip on my sidearm. My soldiers did the same, though none of us spoke the order aloud. The air felt less like a battlefield and more like a ritual we didn't understand. Hale turned his head slightly. "Captain," he said, "it's all right." "Why?" I asked. The word came out raw. "Why is it doing that?" His mouth twitched, not quite a smile. "Because it remembers." "Remembers what?" He didn't answer. He stroked the beast's plate once, almost fondly, then stepped back. The gravitide lifted its head, tendrils unfurling, and fixed its gaze on me. I had faced warlords. I had negotiated with pirates who wore human teeth on their belts. I had stared down plasma barrels on hostage decks. None of those looks had ever made my blood feel small. The beast saw me. Me, not my rank or my weapon. It saw the tightness in my shoulders, the readiness to run, the buried hunger to survive. Predators recognized predators. Then the gravitide did something worse than threaten. It dismissed me. Its head angled away, attention returning to Hale like a planet choosing its sun. Hale took that as permission to speak to my line. "No shots," he said quietly. Vec bristled. "Ambassador, with respect." "No shots," Hale repeated, and there was steel in it now, something I hadn't heard before. "Not unless I say," my jaw clenched, "you're not in my chain of command." He turned fully, eyes meeting mine at last. "No," he agreed. "But that creature is not in yours either, and if you shoot, you'll make it a liar." "A liar," he nodded toward the gravitide. "It bowed. That's a statement. If you respond with violence, you're saying its choice was wrong. Animals don't like being told they're wrong." It sounded absurd. And yet every instinct I had screamed that he was right. I lowered my hand completely. For the first time since we landed on Atrin, the perimeter didn't feel like a cage. It felt like a line drawn by someone who understood what lived beyond it. Hale approached the portable table we'd set near the floodlights. Maps, samples, the kind of props diplomats loved. He didn't touch any of it. Instead, he crouched and scooped a handful of ash, letting it run through his fingers. "Captain Saris," he said, "do you know why the Atrin Council asked for human mediation?" "Because the mining consortium hired us to keep their crews alive," I said. "Because the council can't control their own wilderness and the consortium won't stop drilling. Because everyone's about to start shooting." "True," he said, "but not the whole truth." He stood and faced the ravine. The gravitide had moved a few steps away, settling like a living cliff. Its chest plates rose and fell in slow rhythm. Hale spoke again, voice pitched for my ears only. "Your people think this is a beast." "It is. It's also a border," I frowned. "A border doesn't eat people." "Borders do," he said, "if you cross them without understanding." The wind shifted. Somewhere in the dark, something clicked. Smaller predators, perhaps, or the ravine's stone settling. Hale continued. 3 years ago, a human survey team landed on the far side of this continent. Officially, they were here to map seismic risks. Unofficially, they were looking for what the consortium wanted most. "Rare metals," I said. He shook his head. "No, a proof. A way to claim Atrin's interior was protected habitat under council law, a loophole." My throat tightened. "And they found it." "They found gravitide," Hale said. "Or rather, gravitide found them." I waited for the part where humans fought it off with clever explosives and heroic sacrifice. That was the kind of story humans like to sell. Small bodies, huge courage, victory at cost. Instead, Hale said, "They didn't shoot." Vec made a sound behind me, incredulous. Hale ignored it. The team leader, Dr. Annika Lorne, noticed something. The creature wasn't hunting like an animal. It was patrolling. It reacted to the drilling noise like a sentry reacts to an alarm. I stared at the massive shape and saw it differently, not a wandering nightmare but a presence with purpose. "They tried to retreat," Hale went on. "The creature followed, not to kill them, at least not at first, to herd them away from a line in the rock, a geological seam." "A nest," I said, because predators defended nests. "Something like that," Hale murmured. "But Dr. Lorne did what humans sometimes do when they should run." She stayed. Hale's eyes went distant. The ash clung to his fingers like a memory. "She walked toward it alone," he said. "No weapons, no sudden moves, just attention. She watched it, she listened, she copied its posture. When it lowered its head, she lowered hers too." "That's suicidal," Vex snapped. Hale's gaze sharpened. "No, it's communication." My translator buzzed with a faint error code, an attempt to interpret the beast's earlier declaration, then gave up. Hale said Dr. Lorne realized the creature responded to respect, not dominance. She made a bargain. "A bargain with a monster," I whispered. "A bargain with a guardian," Hale corrected. "They shut down their drills and left offerings, food, minerals, even heat packs. In return, the creature escorted them out alive. It didn't attack again. Vex's ears flattened. That's a fairy tale. Hale gave him a thin smile. Then why are we still alive right now? Silence answered. Hale turned back to me. The council never heard the whole story. The consortium buried it, but Dr. Lorne filed a report anyway in the only place they couldn't erase, the Human Diplomatic Archive. You knew, I said, anger rising. You came here already knowing this thing could be reasoned with. Yes, he said simply, and you didn't tell us. I did tell your superiors, Hale said. They told me to bring proof. He gestured toward Gravitide. This is proof. My palms went cold. Proof for what? Hale's expression tightened as if he'd hoped I wouldn't ask. That the interior is under protection by something no one can claim they control. If the Council recognizes Gravitide as a sentient guardian species, the Consortium's permits become illegal. The drilling stops. And the Consortium will retaliate, I said. Probably, Hale agreed. I glanced at the beast. It watched the ravine, not us, like a soldier keeping an eye on a ridge. You're risking a war, I said. I'm trying to prevent one, Hale replied. A war where your people die first. The words hit harder than they should have because they were true. Mercenaries always died first. We were the buffer between greedy decisions and reality. Still, something gnawed at me. Why does it bow to you? I asked. It made a bargain with Dr. Lorne, fine, but you're not her. Hale's eyes softened. No, I'm not. He lifted his wrist, turning the medical tag outward. The little band was scuffed, old, not a fresh issue. On it was a name in human script and a symbol I didn't recognize. Annika was my sister, he said quietly. The wind seemed to pause. I swallowed. She died here. Hale didn't look away. Yes. My chest tightened with something like regret. In my head, the human had been a fool courting death. Now he was something else, a man standing in front of the animal that killed his blood, asking it to help him. You hate it, I said. Hale's laugh was a short, brittle sound. I wanted to. For a long time I tried. He stared at Gravitide with an intensity that made my skin prickle. But Annika's last message wasn't fear. It wasn't hate. It was wonder. His voice dropped. She said, it's not evil. It's defending something, and I think it's lonely. Lonely. I looked at the enormous creature and tried to imagine loneliness fitting inside it. Yet the way it held position, always between us and the ravine seam, looked less like hunting and more like duty. Hale continued, I came here planning to kill it. I won't pretend otherwise. I asked for this assignment so I could be close enough. My hand drifted back to my sidearm without thinking. Hale noticed and shook his head. I didn't, because when I finally saw it, it recognized me. My throat tightened again. How could it? He tapped the wristband. Scent, genetics. Humans don't have pheromone language like some species, but we still carry markers. It remembered Annika's smell. And when it met me, it made the connection. The deadliest beast didn't bow to him because he dominated it. It bowed because it recognized kin-adjacent scent, a thread of continuity, a memory. I felt my earlier guard-down moment turn sour in my stomach. I had lowered my weapon because I thought the human had control. He didn't. He had relationship. Those were different kinds of power, and one of them could shatter without warning. A new vibration tremored through the ground, not from gravitide, from below. My comms crackled. "Captain Saris," came a panicked voice from the mining camp. "We've got something coming up through the transmission cut off in a scream of static." Vex straightened. That was Camp 3. Hale's head snapped toward the camp lights in the distance. A faint red glow pulsed at the horizon like a heartbeat behind smoke. "Drills," Hale muttered. "They started again," I said, fury and dread mixing, "even after the council order." "Of course they did," Hale said. "They want an incident. A reason to call in heavier forces." The ground shuddered again. A plume of ash erupted far off, a geyser punching into the air. Something moved under the surface, fast, huge, not gravitide. The beast at our side reacted instantly. Its plates flared, tendrils stiffened. It rose, towering, and emitted a short, sharp call that my translator didn't even attempt. The sound wasn't anger, it was alarm. Hale's face drained of color. "That's not it," he whispered. "That's not gravitide being territorial." I turned fully toward him. "What is it?" He swallowed. "It's warning us." A third shudder rolled through the ground. This one made my teeth clack. The basalt beneath my boots cracked with a sound like ice breaking. From the ravine's seam, a dark fissure widened. Something else pushed up from below, forcing rock apart the way a newborn forces bone and blood into shape. A second creature, smaller than gravitide but still monstrous, clawed into the open air, slick with mud and glistening under floodlights. It screamed, a raw, hungry sound, and snapped at anything near: stone, air, the edges of reality. Gravitide surged forward, placing itself between us and the newborn horror. It didn't attack with teeth first. It threw its body across the fissure like a living wall, plates grinding, tendrils lashing. The smaller beast bit at it, shredding cartilage, but gravitide held. It was defending the seam, defending the boundary. Hale took a step forward, horror in his eyes. "They woke it," he said. "The drilling, they woke the brood." Brood. The word made my stomach drop. One gravitide was a nightmare, a brood was extinction. My soldiers raised their weapons again, but this time not at gravitide, at the newborn creature thrashing at the fissure. Lasers cut across its slick hide. Plasma scorched it, leaving burns that instantly wept black fluid. It didn't slow. Vex swore. "Our fire isn't enough." Gravitide roared, a sound that shook my ribs. It snapped its jaw around the smaller creature's neck and slammed it back into the fissure with brute force. Rock collapsed, dust erupted, the seam shook. For a moment it looked like gravitide would succeed, seal the boundary again. Then the ground far off at Camp 3 split open like paper. A second plume. A third. Multiple broodlings. They had breached elsewhere. Hale's voice sharpened, urgent. "Captain, if the brood reaches the camp, it's over. They'll spread. They'll follow heat, machinery, movement. Every outpost will become bait." I assessed the distance, the terrain, our ammunition. Calculations ran cold. "We can't fight a swarm," I said. "No," Hale agreed. He glanced at gravitide, locked in struggle at the fissure. "But we can convince the Guardian to help us." "Convince?" I barked, half laughing. "How?" Hale stared at the beast, eyes fierce. By doing what my sister did. He stepped toward the chaos, toward snapping jaws and flailing tendrils, raising his empty hand again. My training screamed to tackle him, but something else, something quieter, made me move with him instead. I grabbed his wrist. If you get yourself killed, we lose the only link it recognizes. He met my gaze. Then don't let me get killed. It wasn't a command, it was a trust. That, more than the bow, was what made my guard drop all the way. I followed him. We advanced to the very edge of the fissure, heat and stink blasting our faces. Gravitide turned its head slightly, one tendril flicking toward Hale in a gesture I could almost read as recognition. Hale spoke, voice steady despite the chaos. "Gravitide," he said, using the name like a prayer, "we're here, we see you." The Guardian's plates shivered. It bit down harder on the broodling, forcing it lower. Hale continued, louder now. "They broke the pact, not us. Help us stop them." The beast's tendrils fluttered, tasting Hale's scent, tasting intent. It made a low sound different from its earlier declaration. This one felt like question. Hale nodded as if he understood. "Yes," he said, "we will leave. We will stop the drills. We will make them listen." Another tremor rolled from the camp's direction, broodlings moving fast. I pointed. "They're getting out. We need to go now." Hale didn't move. He raised his other hand and lowered his head, slow, deliberate, exposing his throat the way prey did when surrendering. My stomach lurched. Humans and their suicidal rituals. Then I understood. This wasn't surrender to the beast. It was offering responsibility. It was saying, "I trust you to choose not to kill me." The Guardian froze. For one heartbeat, everything held. Then Gravitide lowered its head again. Not a bow this time, but a press of its brow ridge to the ash, right in front of Hale's bare throat. A vow. I heard myself exhale. Gravitide released the broodling, not because it was defeated, but because it had decided something bigger mattered. It swung its massive body away from the fissure and faced the horizon where the camp lights pulsed red. It emitted a long, rolling call. The planet answered. From the ravine, from cracks in the basalt, from shadows between stones, shapes moved, sleek, plated, smaller than Gravitide but larger than any predator I'd ever seen. Guardians, sentinels. A line we had never known existed because we had never crossed it the right way. They formed behind Gravitide like a tide of armor and teeth. Hale lifted his head and looked at me, eyes bright with a grief that had found direction. "Captain," he said, "tell your people to get the miners out. Now." I snapped into action. "All units move, evac protocols. No drilling equipment comes with us, you hear me? Leave it." As my troops surged toward the dropships, Gravitide and its sentinels moved the other way, toward the camp, toward the breach, toward the brood. Not to conquer, to restore the boundary. I ran with Hale toward the transport, boots slipping on ash. Behind us, the ground shook with the weight of Guardians answering a broken pact. Ahead, the camp lights flickered as the first broodling erupted from the soil, screaming. And the deadliest beast of Atrin, no longer a nightmare, no longer just a monster, charged to meet it. Not because it bowed to power, because someone finally spoke to it like a partner. And in that moment, I understood the most terrifying thing about humans. They didn't just fight monsters. They taught monsters the meaning of agreement, and then had the audacity to hold everyone else to it too.